people who've played at higher levels, and Danny Tickle as well. I know they're all at the super long
the back end
of the squad, but
that's where you'd expect them to be at this time in the career, you know, and for that kind of level, it's not a bad roster.
Yeah, so I think it's possibly that they think maybe his style wasn't working, and they wanted someone to come in who maybe had a bit more variation in the way they wanted to play. It seemed like the Leon Price-led Workington side were quite direct and forward dominated, because that is probably the strength of their squad, is the old experienced forwards they've got, but they weren't quite scoring enough points, and when you're relying on old forwards, maybe you're going to tire in games as well, which isn't going to help you at the back end of matches.
Why do you reckon some of these guys are still going round? Do you think it's because they don't know, they haven't got any other way to earn any money, or do you think they've just got a genuine love of the game?
You look, it depends, player by player, I suppose. But Ollie Wilkes looks to me like a guy who just absolutely loves playing rugby league, and doesn't want to give it up. And whilst he's still good enough to play and get paid for it, he will. But I maybe have slightly different views on some of the other players, and I do wonder why. It baffles me completely why Fui is still going around in League One at this stage of his career. It made sense when he was at the Wolfpack doing it in League One, but I'm not really sure why he's still around. What's happened there to mean he still has to keep playing? I don't really know. Because I'm sure he must have had a couple of decent-sized contracts, and he's played quite a lot internationally. He must have earned well for the middle portion of his career, and that spell at Lee and Toronto, you don't think he would have been getting paid pauper's wages. It just seems weird. He doesn't seem to need to be doing it, so maybe he doesn't just love it.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
So we've got Lee Hooker, Declan O'Donnell has joined Workington on a one-month loan deal. The Island International has had 3 appearances for the. I don't really know much about him, I'll be honest.
He started at Wigan, but I didn't remember him being a hooker. I remembered him being a back rower, so I don't know much about him either, obviously.
No, it's the name I recognise, but yeah.
Yeah, he was a Wigan kid, but he never played in the first team. Into news from Down Under, New Zealand Warriors have confirmed the signing of Cody Nikorima from Brisbane Broncos on a deal until the end of 2021. This one surprised me because Brisbane don't feel like they've got the depth there at the moment to be letting international players go.
I think the consensus is like the Broncos, you know, this young Broncos pack was going to dominate the NRL and they were one of the favourites. And how it's panned out is they've just not got it done at all. And that starts. And it's one of them where there's a lot been said, I'm too similar. And by all accounts, the Warriors have doubled Nikorima's salary.
Yeah. So
it's a case of they must be desperate for something to play alongside Blake Green. And the Broncos, it's just not happening. They're just two similar players. They're just ball runners. And it's not happening. So I can see why the Broncos have let him go. And if somebody's doubling your contract, then I can see why he's got himself off.
And he probably would be, at this stage of Blake Green's career, now he's
sure.
less of the running thread. Probably Nikorima's a good foil for what Blake Green's
right.
doing with his experience.
Green's become very much like those players he played alongside at Melbourne. You know, he's very much the dominating halfback now, kicking and probing, and you know, probably needs a bit more of a ball runner alongside him. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Fair enough. Maybe the biggest news of the week, but it wasn't really, because it didn't really change anything. It didn't cause any surprises. But that's Wayne Bennett and Craig Richards. They'll coach the England teams at the Downer Rugby League World Nines in Sydney this autumn. Bennett will lead England in the men's tournament at the New Bank West Stadium, whilst Richards will coach England women in a 4-team tournament, both of which will be played on the weekend of the 18th and 19th of October, which is the weekend after our grand final in Super League. And Tom Andrews got in touch on this one. He said, "Damn, what's with the lack of any news to comment on this week? Anyway, the appointment makes sense as it's going to be the same players in the England GB or 9 squad, so what will be the point of having different coaches? I am looking forward to watching it though. I also think Magic Weekend should be replaced by 2 days 9s tournament, in brackets. I'm inventing talking points now."
Yeah, I just think, you know, the Magic Weekend needs to be a regular round of rugby and you just move a game there rather than playing an extra fixture. But That's my opinion.
Yeah, the nines thing has been talked about for so long now. I love 13-a-side rugby league. Nines has its day as a kind of. It had a good place in the NRL calendar, kind of as a curtain raiser. It seems like a summer event, so Magic's normally played in the summer, but you're not going to get your star men playing in it unless you throw big money at it, and who's going to throw big money at anything in rugby league in this country? So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the reason why it died a death in Australia is it had a support for a period of time, but what you got was when they played star players, they'd pick up medial knee injuries, some of them season-ending career injuries in a tournament where there was, decent prize money. It's not worth you losing, maybe one or two of your players from your roster with season-ending injuries for a pre-season friendly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of always going to be the problem with the nines, because the big bucks are in the 13-a-side game. But if we are going to see more nines more seriously on the international scale, and if nines is a gateway into, maybe the Commonwealth Games or what have you on
Correct,
a proper basis, then I suppose we do have to take it more seriously, and this would be a way of getting it into the calendar. People are just going to have to be aware that they're still going to have to, put up the money to go and watch it, otherwise it won't happen. Yet you're probably going to be seeing kids.
That's right, and I don't want to be a naysayer, mate. I'm with you. I'm all for things that are going to develop the game. But if I'm right, the tournament's just after just before the internationals, just after the end of the season, then you have a lot of players who are knackered. That's right, isn't it? They're going to have it a couple of weeks after the grand final. So,
the week after our grand final and the week before Great Britain played their first game, I think, which means that it's just going to be it feels like it'll be for the players that are in the Great Britain squad and whoever gets selected for Wales as well to kind of tick over for ones who haven't played in the playoffs. But anyone who's played in the semis or the grand final over here or the grand final down under, they can't be in that tournament. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, you've heard some of the Aussie coaches and the UK coaches say that people have said the World Club Challenge played the week playing RL together with tape as it is, it's like so again, I don't want to be in there I'm not really what it's bringing to the table.
And finally, Blake Austin has proven he's more than just a good rugby league player after setting up a get-together with local kids to encourage them to get outdoors. Austin posted a picture of him and a number of youngsters in a park on Instagram after having a kickabout with the locals, and it appears he will make it a regular thing after encouraging more to come along in coming weeks. He said, "We're going to be at the park in Appleton every Monday from 5 p.m. All welcome, so let's get off fortnight and come for a run around."
Well, he'd try to get the kids out around Warrington playing footy. Well, he is a good bloke, and he's generally got a reputation for being a top fella and somebody who puts a lot to the community. So, if it gives some of the kids a chance to get out and be around him, then he's a good bloke.
It's nice, isn't it? And it's the sort of stories we want to be able to be highlighting rather than negative stories. So. So that's surely a positive thing, definitely. And I'm sure the NRL could try and take a bit of shine as well from these kind of things. It's only bad stories in the NRL that get the press, so it's good to see that.
Unfortunately,
over here.
Yeah, well, let's stay away from some of the Instagram of the NRL players and keep it on Blake Austin down the local park.
There you go. Let's just hope he doesn't injure any of the kids or something in one of the sessions. We'll see how it goes. Luckily, it looks like it's going to be a once a week thing rather than any sort of double headers, so should be all right.
Yeah, less about the double header.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've scrambled our way through the news section this week. And I apologise to anyone for the breakups as we went along. Hopefully the edits worked quite well there. We're now going to move on to Super League match reviews, where we hope it's a much smoother experience for us and for you, dear listeners. Super League match reviews time now, and it was round 14 of Super League, and I'm sorry to report a disappointing average attendance of under 7,000, 6,943 to be exact. It's the 13th ranked out of the 14 rounds so far for average attendance. And even though we had two of the usually bigger drawing clubs at home, we saw no five-figure crowds. And I think the Thursday night game, in terms of disappointing crowd numbers, is probably the first place to kick us off with that, where Wigan hosted the London Broncos in front of only 9,907, and some people might dispute that figure as well. Robert Hicks was the referee. It was actually 8-6 to the Broncos at half time, but Wigan bounced back in the second half to finish up 18 points to 8 winners. In terms of the stats, we do have stats on this game. The stats back up the low-scoring nature of the game. Less than 2,200 total metres and only 23 missed tackles in the game, which is really good defensive effort. Wigan made more of the metres, although London missed fewer of the tackles. Interesting quirk there. But in terms of individuals, for Wigan, Oliver Gildart keeps impressing. I'm sure he'll be the next back to try and make it in the NRL. 124 metres from him. Joe Greenwood, 103 metres. Zach Hardacre, 1 try assist and 138 metres. In what I thought was a quiet performance from Hardacre. So there you go. Shows what I know. Luke Gates, 62 tackles. Will Lovell, 55 tackles. Kieran Dixon, 131 metres, and Elliot Keir, 116 metres for the Broncos. The unlucky Elliot Keir as well, it would have to be said. We've got quite a few fan reviews in on this one, actually, considering how dire the match was. Do you want to take us through the first one, Rich?
I will do. So, Fat Boy Rob kicks us off with Cheats beat Cottneys.
Carsten,
thank you for that, Rob.
He's still going strong. Carsten got in touch with this. That was gritty, not pretty. Both teams were on one level, except for 10 minutes between the 55th and 65th minutes, where London made tons of errors and Wigan showed some amazing efforts, which resulted in 12 points. Good game from London, but good may not be good enough for Super League. Wigan's performance wasn't good enough for the top 5 too. # cheat speak kids.
So Josh got in touch and said, London definitely came off the better side. A few penalties gave Wigan the advantage to score tries, but London all round looked the better side, although Wigan took advantage when needed. Batty needed to stick to eating sandwiches, not carrying pressure passes. Marshall should become a playing director with his arm flapping around after every tackle and play. Everyone's saying it was a shit game. I thought it was a great game.
It was.
I won't go that far.
It was a shit game, mate. Angela Coates got in touch. She said, "So we're currently under new management. We all know that in rugby league it can take longer than a whole season for new coaching strategies to bed in. However, this is Wigan Warriors, and I guess us fans have higher expectations than most when it comes to winning. Hats off to Lamb. We secured 2 points, and a win's a win, but it certainly wasn't the expansive style we were promised at the beginning of the season." No, it wasn't.
No. How do you say this one? Nkosi?
Encos. I'd just say
Encos, yeah. Encos. Wigan were poor. London did what they had to try and get the result. However, Wigan's second half try, which was a game breaker, should never have been allowed. Wigan player clearly encroaching at the scrum. No wonder Kay dropped it with a player in his face who shouldn't have been there. Interesting.
It was a critical moment, and after 3 or 4 replays, one of the Sky team, I think it was, I can't remember, I watched it back late and fell asleep. I think it was, no, I can't even think who it was. Anyway, one of the Sky team asked a question about whether he was offside or not. I don't think he was in his face. I don't think you can excuse the drop, but it does look like he was offside by a few yards at that point. So yeah, and it was a pivotal moment in the game. I don't know. I mean, London made so many errors in that period that I'm not sure that one error should be, should mean that.
That's right, and London had some gilt edge chances and put the ball down, so over a period of game, if we speak about this a lot, Mark, if the turning point of a game, as a fan, you think it comes down to one moment or one refereeing decision, then you lose in sight of the wins and losses. Seldom does one moment in a game, they define the game. It can happen, and I do feel bad for London, but
it was a crucial one, and it did look offside. But I would wager that there was plays where London players were 3 or 4 yards offside or maybe quick off the mark, but the Wigan player didn't drop it, and vice versa. I'm sure there was other moments where Wigan players were offside but a player didn't drop it. So we're only talking about this one cost the player dropped it, I think is kind of